Hey, what's up? Zach here, and I'm in the bowels of Tennis Warehouse, as you can see. And this is the ultimate tennis shoe guide for beginning of 2025 for the Australian Open, end of 2024. Let's get into it. And remember, as always with this video, it's intended to mix and match. So if you're somebody that has a high arch, you are an ankle sprainer, and you play mostly baseline, just find all the shoes in each category, whichever one shows up in all of them or in most of them, that's usually gonna be the one that I recommend. All right, let's get started with number one. Foot type. All right, now if you're somebody that's wide-footed, obviously you can just go with a brand like New Balance that comes in a wide width. If you're a woman, it's a little bit easier for you because you can go into the men's standard D width and it'll have a few more millimeters. Coincidentally, if you're a male player looking for a little bit more of a narrow shoe, you can go with the standard female lasted shoe. Unless it says unisex sizing on it, normally you can go to that standard size in female and be able to get that width reduction without having to deal with the length reduction. It's like the New Balance CT Rally 2E or the Diadora Blue Shield Torneo. If you're in the narrow foot category, something like the Adidas Cybersonic is gonna be a pretty good pickup. But if you're someone that has more of a true width foot, you're really not too wide, you're not too narrow either, really the world is kind of your oyster. You can usually go up 1/2 size on any very narrow shoe, as long as it's not too long. And if you're looking for something with a little bit more room in it, well then you can always either double sock or wear a thicker pair of socks, or go down that 1/2 size on a very wide shoe, as long as you're not super long foot, super long toed. Now, if you have a high arch like me, you're gonna want a shoe that has a lot of support, not necessarily softness, but support in the forefoot and in the rear foot, so that those two spots on your foot are not pummeling into the ground. Once again, Diadora Blue Shield 22 Mizuno Wave and Force Tour is one of my favorites, and you know, the New Balance CT Rally with that Fresh Foam X is fantastic for this. Coincidentally, the best shoes for flat-footed people, a lot of them are the exact same as for higher arch, because in the case of a flat-footed player, you need all of that support around the inside of your foot. So a lot of the same shoes that are good for high arch feet, I know I've said this in every one of these videos, but the same shoes that are good for high arch feet, a lot of them are also good for flat foot. Now, if you're someone that wears orthotics and braces, remember you need a shoe that's gonna be able to lock down around them. So anything that has a runner's knot in it, or if it's more of a mid-top cut. Remember, you know, high tops, mid tops are not gonna stop ankle sprains, but they will allow you to fit an orthotic in there. One of the best shoes on the market still for this is the Mizuno Wave and Force Tour. The New Balance Coco CG 1 and 2s are also fantastic for locking in even the bulkiest orthotics and braces. Now, if you're in a situation like this where they're making me play all day with no food, water, or drink, and for that matter, and you need a shoe for multiple matches in a day or just multiple practices in a day, something that is not super bottom heavy, something that's not a real clunker, is gonna be the best pickup for that. Something, once again, the Wave and Force Tour, the CT Rally, the 996, any of those shoes that have enough support in them but aren't super heavy are gonna be the best shoes for that. And if you're looking for a shoe that has more of a quote-unquote anatomic toe box or more of a barefoot style, honestly, your choices are extremely limited at this point in terms of shoes that, number one, have that style of shoe, but also can play tennis. Right now, said this in the basketball video, but really the Uncivilized shoe is really the only name in the game right now that, number one, has that shape shoe, but also is sturdy enough to actually play in. If you're looking for the most gentle toe box shoe in the basketball space, the Adidas Dame Certified 3 is actually a very, very good tennis playing shoe. It kind of reminds me of the older school Barricades. It's also more of a budget shoe, but it also has a very, very gentle inflare in the shoe and gentle toe box taper. And with that being said, let's get into number two, game style. Now, the best tennis shoes for serve and volleying are obviously gonna be the ones that have the most straight line speed available. Something like the Onyx Ad XL, the Adidas Uber Sonic 3, really the Adidas Cybersonic, anything, like I said, a little bit more streamlined and more focused on getting from point A to point B in a straight line as fast as possible. Now, if you're someone that really prides themselves in their hardcourt sliding, you need, number one, a shoe that is low enough to the ground so you can feel the court and, you know, be able to do that a little bit more of a tricky technique with. Also a shoe that has enough durability, especially on the medial side. Prides themselves on a big serve plus one game. Really, you're just coming down really hard on one foot, setting up for a big shot. Something like the New Balance Coco CG2, yes, they will be starting to get more size ranges in those, hopefully by the time you're watching this video. Something like that, though, where you can pop up off the ground multiple times in a match and then be able to get pretty sure-footed right after that, is a good pickup. But on the opposite end of that spectrum, if you're someone that's more of a baseline grinder, someone who's really prides himself on getting from one end of the court to the other really quickly, something like the Mizuno Wave and Force Tour, the New Balance CT Rally, really anything that's got good side-to-side speed with a mix of like good 45-degree angle speed is gonna be the best shoe for that. But if all you care about is speed, 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 right now there is actually, you're not hurting for choice, put it that way. Right now, my favorite shoe by far for speed is the New Balance Coco CG2, and right behind it is the Onyx Adixel. But if you're someone that's a little bit more creative, likes to move kind of in that 360 degree, kind of like that clock formation, right, where you're always kind of off axis and trying to create angles with your feet, something like the New Balance CT Rally is fantastic for that, the Adidas Barricade 13, or the Onyx Eclipsean 5. Now, if you're someone that plays on multiple surfaces a lot, you go from hard true to hard court really fast, or hard court to grass, clay, carpet, whatever. Right now, the more durable clay court shoes are going to be the best pickup. Think of something like the Nike Vapor Pro 2 clay that is still one of the best out there, or the Asics Gel Resolution 9 or 10 clay. And once again, the same shoes for carpet and grass, same thing. Right now, my favorite shoe for grass is the Onyx Eclipsean 5 clay. Now, if you're a pickleball only player or you want a tennis shoe to both play tennis and pickleball in, number one, I have a top 5 video for that. I'll leave it linked in the description below. But number two, you definitely want something, like I said, where I talked to Aaron Cooper about this before. This isn't my idea, but it is genius. You want something that you can move the best in a 360-degree circle, right? It's kind of like the hands of a clock. You want to be able to go to 6, to 3, to 2, to 1, things like that. You don't need wide court speed, you need short court speed. Something like, once again, the Babolat Jet Mach 3, the Onyx Eclipsean 5, or coming out pretty soon, the Selkirk shoes are going to be a pretty good pickup for that. But if all you care about is durability, you want the shoe that is going to last you the longest, well, right now the Wilson Rush Pro 4.5 is still probably one of the better ones for that. Remember, you are going to sacrifice a little bit of grip for that harder rubber, but also the Onyx Eclipsean 5, fantastic options for that as well. All right, with that being said, let's get into the third and final category, which is injury, body types, recovery, and chronic conditions. Now, if you're somebody playing with heel pain, number one, get off of the hard courts and get onto clay, or just rest it. But number two, you want a shoe that's gonna try to avoid as much micro motion in the heel as possible, which means you need a shoe that is, number one, stable, number two, forgiving enough in the heel, but has enough support. Something like the Mizuno Wave and Force Tour with the double ankle collar, as well as the 3 layers of foam underneath of you, is gonna be still one of the best shoes on the market. The New Balance CT Rally would be the best shoe on the market, but it does allow a little bit more eversion. Now, that does make it a great shoe for ankle sprainers, but it also necessitates having an orthotic in there to kind of use it to its most efficient in terms of you're somebody with heel pain. But if you're someone that's always spraining your ankle, have ankle instability, or recovering from an ankle sprain, you want something, number one, puts you more flat on the ground, like the CT Rally, but number two, has a wide enough lateral flange in the mid and forefoot so that you're not pummeling through that. Number one, the Diadora Blue Shield 2002 is still one of the best shoes on the market. If you're looking for something that's maybe a little bit more low profile, go with the Babolat Jet Mach 3. And if you're someone that's, dealing with arch pain, arch strain, posterior tibial tendinitis, or even peroneal tendinitis, same thing applies. You want a shoe that's going to eliminate a lot of micro motion and not allow your arch to pummel through the ground. Now, if you're somebody with ball of foot pain, right, you really can feel the ground under the ball of your foot and you're kind of pummeling through the shoe in that direction, you really need something with a lot of density in the forefoot. It's still the Diadora Blue Shield 2002 and the Diadora Blue Shield Fly 4, still the best shoes on the market for that, because I have yet to find a foam setup in the midsole like Blue Shield that allows as much shock absorption without bulking up the shoe too much. And if you're somebody suffering from shin splints, number one, you need a shoe that, is not super bottom heavy and bulky so that your anterior tibial tendon is not having to really decelerate too hard, but also a shoe that's going to give you a little something back. Right now, I still think the Babolat Jet Mach 3 is the best shoe out there for that, even though it's like 100 years old. And if you're somebody suffering from arthritic foot joints, say it's in the big toe joint, the midfoot, or even in the rear foot with ankle pain, right now, I still think the Mizuno Wave and Force Tour with an orthotic in that is probably the best setup for that. And really, same thing goes if you're suffering from anything up the chain, right? Knee, hip, or back pain. You need shock absorption without having a shoe that is too heavy. Diadora Blue Shield 2002, I know it's like a broken record. Mizuno Wave and Force Tour, New Balance CT Rally with an orthotic is going to be the best for that. And if you're looking for a court shoe to recover in, the New Balance 996 V5 and V6 are my favorites right now. If you don't really care about if it's a court shoe or not, it's kind of dealer's choice. It's whatever you're comfortable with, but just make sure that it is stable enough to where your ankle and feet are not having to stabilize the shoe because it's so soft. Number two, though, it's wide enough to where your feet can kind of you know, relax a little bit after being kind of tortured on a court like this. Now, if you're looking for the best slides to recover in, obviously I recommend the Zen by Xenon. This is my collaboration sandal and recovery slide with Xenon paddle. It's got dual density thermoplastic polyester elastomer foam on the top and then rubberized EVA. It also has a convex dorsal retention strap to allow your metatarsals to relax as much as possible, but also to hold you into the shoe. And the rubberized EVA is dense enough to where, number one, it'll mold to your foot, but also feel pretty buttery after break-in. So if you want to check these out, I'll leave them linked in the description below. Now, if you're someone that's a heavier player, you do need something you're not going to pummel through. Kind of the best shoes for high-arch players are also the best shoes for this category. On the opposite end of the spectrum, if you're a lighter weight player, you don't want a shoe that you're going to have to lug around the court, but also not a shoe that's so just, you know, squishmallowy that you're gonna sprain your ankle in it. Something, like I said, New Balance 996 V6 and Babolat Jet Mach 3 are also a great pickup for this. And if you're looking for the best shoes for breathability, right now the Head Sprint Pro is still one of the best ones out there, and the Adidas Ubersonic 5 is kind of taking a page out of that book, allowing a ton of breathability as well. All right, that's it. If you have a category you would like to see in this video in the future, please leave me a comment down below. And if you do want to see which shoes I think right now kind of broke through this list into the top 5, I will have a video linked up above. And if you want to check out the Xenon Zen recovery slides, I'll leave that video linked up above right here. Respect, rubber, and foam. I'll see you somewhere in the Sneakerverse.